took last week off going into Night of Champions, and while we were only off for 1 week, but our short hiatus missed the entire championship run of Sami Zayn, his first and as of right now only chance he's ever had with the WWE World Championship, heading into finishing off our last show that we had here on the Heel to the Face. None of us were predicting him to win the triple threat match for the championship between him, Cody Rhodes, and Gunther, and he won it. He held it for all of one episode of SmackDown, which is the proper show that championship is on. So his first show as champion, he survived. But then his first defense, just 9 days after getting the championship, he loses it to a surprising CM Punk. And well, CM Punk is the worst kept secret in Chicago. I think he's originally on the advertising for the show in Chicago, but well, he hasn't been on WWE in some time, so we have to, forget that he's going to be there, but he was there.
He hasn't been on in since WrestleMania.
He hasn't been on since the Raw after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
He was, in the original advertising, the little banners and the nonsense they put up to advertise ticket sales. He had his picture on that. So he was technically advertised to go, but with the, a lot of people get advertised to go on things, and then time happens where they get hurt and they're not there. I know Seth Rollins was advertised to be at a house show here on New Year's Day this past year, and we all know that he was long out on injury, and he was on the advertising all the way up until the day of the show. But it is Chicago, right? And CM Punk was not hurt. He was just taking, a hiatus, if you will. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts of CM Punk now being the WWE Undisputed Champion, the SmackDown Champion, the championship belt that he hasn't had since 2013, and how WWE went about it. Are you okay with it? Do you think this was a long-term plan to get the belt on him? Was this kind of last-minute booking? What do you think?
Honestly, I think this has been in the works. I feel like the way they set it up, they were making Sami a transitional champion, and what better place to do it in Chicago? I mean, we were texting our old Heel to the Face teammate, Boy Green, and he kind of spilled the beans a little bit. But I wasn't really that surprised, because I'm like, I watched it the next day because I was watching the U.S. soccer because it was on at the same time. So I watched it the next morning, and Raw in Chicago. You kind of figured, all right, if something crazy is going to happen, it's going to be CM Punk involvement. And I don't know if you caught the little bit of CM Punk's first, right when you first saw him. That was the same spot where he was beaten badly by Drew McIntyre, being carried over his shoulder. Back in that little feud, just not that long back. I just thought that was cool because he came through there where Drew McIntyre left him over his shoulder, beaten and battered pretty good. I thought that part was cool. To me, it's the thing I don't like about CM Punk in particular is I feel like, and I get it. Like, it's his hometown, it's his home city. I have a lot of love for Syracuse. That's where we are. Like, I would do, I would, if I was in the business, I would let people know, hey, I'm from Syracuse. Like, I'm proud of that. And I know he's proud. He's a proud, Chicago guy. I get that. But I feel like he does a disservice to anybody that's not Chicago fans, especially in this run, because it's like he doesn't really show up. And he's the same guy not that long ago who called out other superstars that were part-timers coming back, taking the title off somebody who was full-time. Well, guess what, CM Punk? You're the part-timer, and you took it off somebody who was full-time like Sami Zayn. So it's kind of like, to me, it's like, okay, you were criticizing it before, but now you're part of that problem. I think it was long-term booking. I really do. I don't think any injuries or anything was involved. I feel like they wanted to get the belt off Cody, put it on Sami, so he could say he's a champion. That's cool. And then drop the belt. I'm not a big fan of CM Punk being the champion right now. I really am not, because he hasn't been around. Like, I'm just, and we've done this podcast. We're almost into 10 years into this podcast, and I would do the same I'm consistent. I said the same thing about Brock Lesnar, where he comes back, beats people up, does his thing, and then he's not there. So I'm going to always be consistent on that. I'm not a huge fan of this. What say you on that? Where do you stand?
I guess I wonder to like what extent. I think CM Punk. I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt that he is a team player, right? And that he's not the CM Punk of 10 years ago or 15 years ago, where essentially, I don't want to say he was never in business for himself. He was always kind of a team player. But, I feel like he should be at peace with whatever, like, like a team player in the sense that he's not going to pull his creative control card, if you will.
Yeah.
So do you, I guess my thing is, I don't necessarily know if the WrestleMania 9 memes that are going out there are a fair comparison of this. I understand that, that was also probably Vince McMahon's decision back at WrestleMania 9 with Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
But I guess, do you think that CM Punk actually was meaning, do you think that, this was everyone on board with it, or was it CM Punk, we're going to give you the championship belt as long as, you're okay with that? Are you okay with that? And, he was like, see, Sami Zayn, are you okay with that? Or do you think he was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'll take it. Like, without really consulting Sami Zayn or any of that stuff. Do you think Sami Zayn has the right to feel slighted here? Did anybody, in the sense of Cody, CM Punk, Gunther, whatever, did any of these people screw him? Or was this an agreed upon plan all along?
I feel like, I mean, I hope this was agreed upon thing where it got Sammy the title he's been wanting forever. Yes, it was short lived, but I feel like Sammy and CM Punk. I don't know the dynamic. I'm not in the room. I'm not Bruce Pritchard. I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not Adam Pearce. I'm not some of these people that are sitting next to these guys, talking things over, getting ready for a match. So I don't know for sure, but my guess is CM Punk obviously has a lot of respect for Sami Zayn. I think that's pretty well known. I think he said it before, whether it was social media, interviews, whatnot. Sami Zayn's very well respected in the business. Doesn't matter if you're on AEW, WWE, whatever. Like, he's very well respected. So I feel like CM Punk is at the phase of his career where I think the respect thing is very important. And I do think it was laid out. I do also like the fact they're trying to sell tickets. They're trying to sell the story for SummerSlam, by the way, because
Mhm.
SummerSlam's right around the corner here. We're less than a month away here. And I don't know if you caught that interview with Sami Zayn. He was pretty ticked off after the whole match and saying a lot of cuss words that you normally don't see out of Sami Zayn. They're building something really interesting where I hate you're passing the baton back and forth with the
Mhm.
championship, but I hope Sammy gets his moment at SummerSlam and maybe gets the title back at SummerSlam.
Yeah. I,
I hate the baton thing.
I don't see that happening because of the fact that I do think the purpose of taking the belt off of him was to create these big time matches. I think, CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes is going to be a one-on-one match at SummerSlam. I could see it being a fatal four-way or something. Like I said this literally on our last show that I'm kind of a fan of these multi-man matches just because we haven't had them in so long. And in the early 2000s, we had a lot more of them. These six-pack challenges. I thought they were interesting because everyone had their own dynamic. It's similar to like a Royal Rumble. Everyone had their own reason why they were involved. I remember that six-man Hell in a Cell in 2000, right? So, you had this person attacking that person. You had this person saying, I'm going to do it, for myself. I don't care about their story. I've got my own story. So those kind of things going on, right? I don't think we're having that, though. I think the reason why we had the loss of championship here for Sami Zayn was not to include him in SummerSlam. If we're going to include him in SummerSlam, then we wouldn't need him to lose the belt to begin with. I think the reason we're losing the belt is because we're pushing him to the side for SummerSlam. We're giving him, I don't know, somebody else.
So do you think this whole Gunther Cody thing was purposely undone to be a non-title match at SummerSlam? Is that where you're thinking?
I I'm thinking we're getting Gunther and Nick Aldis at SummerSlam. That's my thinking for that. I think we're
You
getting
really
Gunther
think
and Nick
so?
Aldis.
Because
Yeah.
Gunther cost Cody his shot.
No, I know, I get it, and I don't think Gunther is out of the picture here. But I think we're getting Gunther and Nick Aldis at
You
SummerSlam.
think they're gonna? You
I
really
think
think
this
Nick
is some
Aldis
more
is gonna?
long-term booking. Maybe Gunther and Nick Aldis is on night one. Maybe Gunther on night two in the championship match does some sort of costing Cody or something like that, gets involved in that. But I think the purpose of WWE, I've noticed as of late, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, whatever these events are, these big one-on-one matches, these big one versus one, not triple threats, things like that, like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Oba, Brock, Cody, Punk. I mean, I think that's kind of what we got last year at SummerSlam. That's what we'll be getting at WrestleMania. I will say this much, though, and I heard somebody talking earlier this week about Sami Zayn being the Daniel Bryan character of the WWE in regards to his WrestleMania 30 run as the big underdog. And Bully Ray and all the people who work over at SiriusXM Radio we're hearing this caller talk about that, and we're poo-pooing this underdog scenario, saying that's already been done, and the Daniel Bryan thing was organic. But one thing I actually picked up on about it wasn't the Daniel Bryan title run from WrestleMania 30, was maybe Sami Zayn being maybe like Daniel Bryan's title run of WrestleMania 35. Remember the wooden belt? Remember the bad guy Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35 against Kofi Kingston? The environmentalist. The I'm anti-fans because of all your political beliefs and your environmental waste and your pollution, and I'm Captain America, if you will, when it comes to that. I'm better than you. I compost. I eat organic food, all that stuff, and I think that'd be good for a Sami Zayn to be, because
I think that's where it is, because
he's a smaller build,
the last real good guy.
Yeah,
I think you're onto something there. I think
and
that
be
makes
like
sense.
a heel as the last real good guy,
Yeah.
in the sense of like you guys like your steroided testosterone guys. You know what I mean? You don't like an organic, healthy eating, religious, well-mannered, good citizened Sami Zayn.
Here's
I
the
always
thing,
get
too.
screwed.
And Sammy, and I'm not one to shame anybody's body, but Sammy's not a body guy. You know what I mean? But Sami Zayn
And
makes
Daniel
the
Bryan
rest
wasn't
of us-
really either.
What's that?
And Daniel Bryan wasn't really either.
No, they're built differently, and that's funny because I believe they're both vegan, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. Like Sami Zayn, he has like an average. To me, he looks like an average Joe when it comes to body, but like he has a gas tank for days when it comes to in-ring ability. So he's obviously a good athlete, but he doesn't have like he's not cut like what's his name there, Austin Theory. Like he's not cut like that, or like remember Brian Cage over in AEW. Like
Yeah,
he like not cut like that. So he's like he's like a normal guy, and that's why I kind of agree with you with that part where I'm the last real nice guy, real good guy thing, because he's like an average guy that's just awesome in the ring, and I could buy that.
Yeah, and that'd be a good heel, and then you can hold the championship that way.
Yeah.
I kind of remember in the early 2000s, this is where I kind of relate the Sami Zayns. I know we look back on it now, and people look at it differently with like Kurt Angle. But at the time, Kurt Angle did not fit in. You had The Rock, you had Triple H, you had Stone Cold, you had The Undertaker. And Kurt Angle had a great body and stuff, but he had been around for about a year. He was annoying. People thought he didn't belong. He thinks he's better than everybody else when he's not one of these cool, awesome 7 foot tall, WWE superstars. He's, barely 6 foot tall. He's a whiner. He talks about how he's better than everybody because he's the real athlete here. He has a boring gimmick, right? Everyone else has got a gimmick. He's just Kurt Angle. That's his real name. That's his real gimmick. He's a real athlete. And I remember him holding the championship in that kind of same vein, right? When you have The Undertaker and Triple H and Kane and all these larger than life gimmicks, and then you have this guy in the 6-pack challenge, if you will, Armageddon, who left with the championship after all Rikishi's thrown off the cell and all these crazy things happening, because he is somewhat kind of like that legitimate guy in there that isn't the biggest babyface, isn't the biggest star, and I think Sami Zayn could fit in that mold of being just your everyday workhorse, your bad guy, because you're not trying to be L.A. Knight, you're not trying to be Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins or these larger than life kind of characters. You're Sami Zayn from Montreal, regular upbringing, go to religious services on the weekends with my kids and my family, that kind of thing.
He was also an indie darling too.
Yeah, so I could see if WWE wants to give Sami Zayn back the championship and have him be kind of like that snake in there, that while you have these bigger players kind of fighting for the belt, maybe in a triple threat match like we saw with Cody Rhodes and Gunther, that he sneaks out with the title every time.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so you kind of gave me a thought there with the triple threat. You know what? I could see it because you mentioned Gunther and Nick Aldis I'll give you that. I think that's pretty plausible given the situation. And Nick's obviously still in ring shape. I feel like he looks like he still works out pretty often. He's a pretty fit guy. I think he's good there. The triple threat is interesting. I could see like a Sami Zayn, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes maybe, because Cody Rhodes lost the opportunity that CM Punk ended up taking and winning the championship. So Cody's going to feel slighted, and I could see that being a triple threat situation, and then he could save the Gunther part for a little bit later because his focus. Yeah, Gunther kicked his butt, but he's focused on hey, CM Punk just took my spot and took the title. I want that title shot. So I could see that being a triple threat at SummerSlam here in a few weeks.
One thing I like about triple threats is the idea that you have such, you can make a story more unique because we'll always have Cody versus CM Punk and things like that, and maybe that could headline WrestleMania next year one-on-one. But triple threats always, or multi-man matches, triple threats specifically, always have that way where they have like that extra element where there's somebody involved that doesn't necessarily belong, and they kind of create that outside chance. They kind of create that opportunity for neither person to like really lose cleanly if you don't want that to happen. The problem with having these matches like back in the day, Brock versus Bobby and things like that is once you have it, and you can't really go back. Once you have Oba and Brock and we do this feud and we're finished with it after Hell in a Cell, it's really hard to go back. We've already had Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns so many times, and I know they're trying to sell it to us like Seth Rollins, is beating Roman Reigns every time, and Roman can't solve Seth, even though he's done it many times. We saw Seth Rollins not leave with the championship at Royal Rumble 2022 in St. Louis against Roman Reigns. So this triple threat kind of creates that other element where it creates more of a once in a lifetime kind of match because you have this extra person that it's kind of like always. You have the main feud, you have Cody, you have Punk, you have them staring at each other, and then you have like, oh, don't forget Sami Zayn like peeking his head over here, be like, hey, don't forget me, I'm involved. And it just takes me back to like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chris Benoit, back in the day, or like John Cena and JBL and Edge, or things like that, where there's that extra kind of person in there to break it up so it's not just so monotonous. With Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, we're going to get the feud for the next few weeks where it's going to get a little monotonous. There's just going to be a lot of jarring back and forth, and there's not much more to uncover in these things. Especially when they don't have the longer-term storytelling like WrestleMania season. So I think a triple threat match is good because you still have the two main components. You still have their hatred, their feud, the big-time stars, and then you have like this other person, who's kind of just always... It's like the person who holds Money in the Bank in the past. You'd always have these big matches, and then the person with Money in the Bank would always be like, oh, by the way, I'm here too. And you're like, oh yeah, we got John Cena and The Rock once in a lifetime, but also Money in the Bank being like, hey, don't forget about me over here. So it's that kind of element. And I think that would have been a better element at WrestleMania 29 when we had twice in a lifetime, if you will, between Rock and John Cena, is if CM Punk was still the champion or involved in that WrestleMania, so that John Cena and Rock from the previous WrestleMania could have been and still would have been once in a lifetime because their rematch would have had a different element. It wouldn't have just been, okay, they're rematching, so we can have the other guy win this time. It would have been like they're rematching, but also CM Punk's involved. It's just that wild card. That's the best way to put it. It's that extra element. It's that wild card factor that makes it a little more interesting and makes it so that it's not just bad guy versus good guy, one-on-one like we've seen so many times. It's that extra element. Is he going to screw him? Is he going to screw him? Is he going to sneak out there with the title? Is he going to be like Kurt Angle? You got The Rock, you got Stone Cold, and then at the end of the day, Kurt Angle sneaks out with the title. That kind of thing. Instead of always having to have a definitive Cody's better than Punk, Punk's better than Cody kind of thing. I like that idea. So I guess I'll finish this topic with saying, we started it like this, so I'll say, does CM Punk deserve, kind of what's going on right now where with the WrestleMania 9 comparison of screwing over Sami Zayn? Should he be, I guess, booed next week or this upcoming week on SmackDown or next week on Raw when he comes out with the belt? Do you expect them to be like, hey, I get it, it's wrestling, but I think that you have enough pull. CM Punk, you've already made your point known when you came back that you would essentially be able to control your own fate, your own destiny, say what you want to do. So we think that if you didn't want to do this, you wouldn't have had to do it. You could have said no, you could have walked away, but you decided not to. Do you think he deserves to get boos if he indeed gets those this week on TV?
I think he's going to get booed. I think so. I think, of course, there's going to be CM Punk diehards that'll try to drown that out. I feel like it's going to be slightly more boos than cheers. That would be my guess because I do feel like the CM Punk diehards will, they're his quote unquote. We'll go with Sami Zayn's quote, ride or dies. It's CM Punk's ride or dies. They're going to always cheer for him. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a good amount of boos when CM Punk comes out with the title. Coming up this his next appearance here. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, what do you think? You think he boos or cheers?
I think there's some booze, but I guess it'd be interesting if it's Cody and it's Punk. It'd be interesting if they both got booed.
That'd be interesting because I have been hearing more boos out of Cody lately. So the people are
Yeah.
he's kind of getting the Roman Reigns feel right now that people were like sick of Roman Reigns remember how they were always like, you're just booing him and like, it
Mhm.
was just, okay, we get it. He's the golden boy. And now it's Cody Rhodes. I think Cody Rhodes doesn't need the belt for a little while.
All right, I agree. I do agree with that. I think this match could have happened at SummerSlam without the belt on the line. That would have also added another element to what we're talking about: Cody versus Punk one-on-one, like we had Cody versus Seth Rollins when Cody came back and we had that little feud, and then Sami Zayn could have been the champion, similar to what we see in some other kind of companies where they have the big time match. But then the championship match is maybe involving somebody else. I think like indies do that a lot, right? I know like GCW, sometimes they have a guy, who's not one of their biggest stars is the champion and he's on earlier in the show defending the championship. But then the main event is like, Joey Janela, Nick Gage, those kind of people in some sort of blood feud. But the championship could be, earlier in the night, like, as we see in WWE sometimes. And with SummerSlam being 2 nights and, like 14 matches needed to be named in the next 3 weeks, I could have saw, Sami Zayn versus somebody for the championship and then Punk and Cena and Cody kind of being reserved, just for like the triple threat match last year at WrestleMania between Rollins, Punk, and Reigns, where it was just a big enough thing that it could happen without the title on the line. But we will see, as we are less than like 3 weeks away from SummerSlam, and I can tell you that it will be much less attended than last year. I know that they sell half the stadium with the hopes of opening up the other half. And you imagine that they would, like they did last year, essentially selling out all of MetLife Stadium for both nights. But now, as we are only like 3 weeks away, and they're still trying to fill the half that they put on sale, it appears that we will not be going full stadium for SummerSlam, like I said, in just under 3 weeks.